In this video, I'm going to give you some quick tips on how you can actually physically adjust the clarinet to help with your intonation. My name is Josh Gu, and I'm taking my years of experience learning, teaching, and performing, and sharing all of my best clarinet and music tips so you can get more out of your practice, and most importantly, have fun. You can learn more about all of my many resources at QuickStartClarinet.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to get notified when I post new videos. So when it comes to playing in tune and intonation, it's a very complex topic. I think the best, most important thing for intonation is to be able to hear the pitch and then have the flexibility to adjust the clarinet to where that pitch needs to be. But there are times when we're playing and just everything is sharp or everything is flat. And in those moments, actually knowing how to adjust the instrument can be very beneficial. So hopefully you know that you can pull out or push in at the barrel to change the pitch. If you don't know that, now you do. The way it works is if you're sharp and you want to lower the pitch, then you pull out. The very logical way of thinking about this is when you pull out, you make the instrument longer. The lower instruments are longer, so you're lowering the pitch when you make the instrument longer. So if you're sharp and need to lower the pitch, pull out, make the instrument longer. A much easier way to remember that is if you were to touch something sharp, you'd pull away. So if you're sharp, pull away and pull out. Then obviously the opposite would be if you're flat, you push in. But did you know that it's not just the barrel that you can pull out and push in to adjust the pitch of the instrument? And that's what I want to talk about and give you a little tip for here today, because you can also pull out or push in, if it's already out, at the middle joint of the clarinet as well. This is very situational and depends a bit on how things are playing for your instrument, which is why I wanted to make a video on it, because I find that people often get this wrong and will be pulled out in weird places for not good reasons. So the way it works is we always want to start with the barrel. You want to check a few notes on the instrument. So if you're, say, low C, F, open G, high C, higher F, higher G, if all of those notes are sharp, then it'd be a good idea to pull out at the barrel. I always start with pulling out just a little bit, testing it, and then dialing it in from there. So maybe as little as that much. Hopefully you can see where that's at with just about 3 to 5 millimeters maybe pulled out. So it's very, very little, and that will often fix it. I find like about that 3 to 5 millimeters generally adjust the pitch about 10 cents or so. Again, there's so much flexibility to do with our voicing and our mouth. You can't say like, pull out this many millimeters if you're this many cents sharp on this note. It's just not that consistent at all. So pull out a bit, test it, see if it's better, pull out more if you need to, push in if you need to. We don't want to go too far, of course, because if we go too far, then it starts leaking and then we get big squeaks. So I would probably go no more than that. That's about the maximum you could pull out. This is actually very extreme even. So no more than that much pulled out. If you find that you're still sharp on everything after that, then you might want to look at changing your mouthpiece, changing your reed, changing something about your embouchure, not biting or squeezing so much, different things like that. Or also getting a different barrel too will, of course, make a big difference there. That's the sort of most obvious place to adjust, and that should be your first go-to because it's going to affect the whole range of the instrument. The problem is it doesn't affect the whole range of the instrument proportionally. So when you pull out at the barrel, it will actually make the notes closer to the barrel, the sort of short tube notes of the instrument. So open G, throat tones, F, E, high B, C, even like A and G even will be more affected by the barrel being pulled out than the lower notes of the instrument, the longer tube notes, the low G, A, high or middle of the staff like D and C and those notes. That's where pulling out in the middle can be useful. You want to be careful with this, and again, always start with the barrel first. But if you find that when you pull out the barrel, now the throat tones are nice and in tune, but maybe the lower clarion, the E, D, C area, is still very, very sharp, and you're having a hard time pulling it down with the voicing alone, then you can pull out at the middle joint a little bit. And again, less is more, especially on this middle joint adjustment. Again, I don't know if you can see that, but just a tiny, tiny bit pulling out in the middle joint. Start with a little, test it out, and see where it's at. The middle joint, I wouldn't go as extreme as the barrel, because if you even go that much on the middle joint, then you're gonna get some rocking potentially, some leaking here, the bridge key alignment might get messed up, the pitch will probably be way too out of whack with it pulled out that much as well. So you can pull out a little bit there to help lower the right hand notes especially. The other thing to be really conscientious of is, especially on my clarinet, this D is super duper sharp. It's very normal for like E, D, and C around there to be quite sharp, but the low F especially tends to be quite flat. So when you pull out in the middle, it's gonna lower the pitch of your D and your C, but it's also gonna lower the pitch of your G and your F. And it's much easier to bend the pitch down with your voicing rather than bend it up, especially on those lowest notes. So you need to find a sweet spot where especially the low F is not too flat and the D and C are not too sharp. So that's the fun physics of balancing the intonation on the clarinet. The last place that you can adjust, but I'm going to say don't do it, is the bell. I've never seen people really pull out at the bell unless it was a mistake. When you pull out at the bell, first of all, it's really only going to affect the pitch of the B and the E, and probably the F as well, the low F. And we already mentioned the low F tends to be flat, so if you pull out at the bell, then you run the risk of making the F flatter. The low E also tends to be really flat, so it's easy to get that too flat. Maybe if your low E is sharp and your B is sharp, maybe you can pull out at the bell and try it, but really double check that F, because if you pull out at the bell and your F goes super flat, then it's not going to be worth it to marginally lower the pitch of the B and the E. Same thing with the mouthpiece. Just don't pull out at the mouthpiece. That sort of gets things too out of whack. It's too easy for it to leak. My mouthpiece is really loose, so it's even hard to keep it pulled out a certain amount, especially as you're pushing up against your teeth and supporting. It's going to be too easy to push that back in and not be able to control that well, and it's just throws everything out of whack and risks leaking and stuff. So don't pull out at the mouthpiece or the bell. Always start with the barrel, maybe a little bit in the middle if the right hand notes are particularly sharp, while being careful of that low F. So I hope this somewhat quick tip was helpful for adjusting your instrument to help it to play in tune. Remember that intonation is all about hearing where in tune is and then having the flexibility to place the notes where they need to be, because you're never going to get every single note on the instrument exactly the same in tune. It's just the physics of the clarinet and the way it works. But hopefully this gives you some ideas that might be helpful. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in another one. And last but not least, a huge heartfelt thank you to the Dennersons. This is like the QuickStart Clarinet family who supports the channel and helps to make everything that I do possible. If you would like to support the channel and get some awesome rewards in return where we can work one-on-one over video and you can have my full support moving forward on your clarinet journey, then go to quickstartclarinet.com/supporter.